All right. Well, welcome everyone to the February board chapter training. We're so excited that all of you got on to join us today. For you, those of you that missed out, we have received a lot of snow here in Missouri, so we are doing the remote work today. But staff is available via email if you need us. Some great training provided today. We're going to have Connie Moyer, our national president, a little news from national, some police week training, some follow-up on our programs that we offer, which is counseling and scholarships, some great training from our trainings department, and some good practices. So with that, I'm Lori Putnam. I'm the Chapter and Survivor Support Director for C.O.P.S, and I will now turn it over to Connie.
Well, thank you, Lori. And I am so sorry I can't see you all. I'm on mute, aren't I? No,
No.
I'm not. Okay. I'm so sorry I can't see you all, but I always say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. That way I can catch all of your time zones and not worry about things. So it has been such a whirlwind of a year to start off with. It has been my pleasure to get out and go to the different events that has been put on by you chapter members. And honestly, I am so very proud of each and every chapter of how they're progressing. We are growing leaps and bounds, as you all know. And unfortunately, with growth comes additional responsibilities. And so we wanted to gear our board chapter training more in the future. The board met in January, and we want to gear our chapter training in the future more on specific roles within the chapter. And so we're going to start out today with some best business practices. And again, I am so happy to serve as your president. And I will see you all at some point. If I don't see you before Police Week, I will definitely see you there. All right. Love you all. Mwah. I'm done, Lori.
Thanks, Connie. We appreciate you. Before we go to news from national, Alyssa, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Melissa Starnes, and I'm the survivor specialist at our national office. So I have probably had the privilege of talking to a lot of you about, getting paperwork in for officers, getting family information, and doing whatever I can to support you. And then I think we're going to move to news from national with Barbie.
Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. It's been a while since I've been able to be with you all at board chapter training, so I'm really excited to be here. So Diana's traveling today. She normally does news from national, but she was teaching yesterday in Nashville, Tennessee. So she's making her way back through the snowy tundra, but she's nearly home, so she may even be joining us later. So I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to talk about news from national. Okay, so hands-on programs. We have 14 hands-on programs, which is wonderful. We're about to get kicked off with Spouses for Couples Retreat. And I want to draw your attention to that red arrow to that one. The deadline for registration is just 2 days away. So if you're planning on going to that retreat and you're not registered yet, make sure you jump online and get registered. We had great feedback. We moved 3 of our retreats last year. We had really good feedback from the one that was moved to Epworth by the Sea, Coworkers for Couples Retreat, as well as siblings and spouses. And our feedback was dual. We heard phenomenal things. We also heard some challenges, and we're looking at addressing some of those challenges like transportation and things like that. So we're excited to host those in those locations again this year in 2025. Outward Bound. We were able to bring Outward Bound back it had been on hiatus since COVID hit, and we were able to bring it back last year. And it was wonderful to be able to deploy that program again. We've got a couple changes this year. One of the things that we struggled with, and it's been kind of consistent over the years, is it's a very, very small group that we take to Outward Bound. And we've struggled with being able to sometimes fill it because of last minute cancellations. If we have early enough cancellations, we can fill it. But when we have last minute cancellations, that can be problematic, and we end up paying way more per person to carry out that program. So we really did a deep dive on the study of Outward Bound, and we have decided that we're going to move it to every other year. We're still going to bring it to you, and we're going to bring it to you in 2025, July 7th through the 13th. And this way we feel like we'll still have, on that every other year basis, we'll still be able to hit those people that are survivors in that adult children age group, young adults age group. So the other change is that we are going to have a deposit. And if you cancel by a certain date, that deposit will be refundable. But that allows us to have a little bit of buy-in, and hopefully it will reduce in a lot of last minute cancellations. So one other thing that I wanted to note is, since it is every other year, and it is a cost factor that the board looked at, we've decided to offer it in the years where we do offer both Outward Bound and Young Adults Camp, that the survivors in the young adults age group will need to choose which one they attend. So we won't be able to have survivors attending both in the same year, if that makes sense. We look forward, we're really happy that we're able to continue that, and going forward, it will be on an every other year basis. So our hands-on programs, there's some changes coming out with the wording of the hands-on programs. And this is something that came out of the strategic plan. We have a committee full of survivors that looks at our strategic plan about every 3 years. And this was something that was talked about at great length. And the strategic plan went to the board, and the board talked about it at great length. But the feedback that we were getting was that the words retreat and hands-on programs were, to some people, deterring them from attending, because they didn't know what to expect when they said retreat or hands-on programs. And so we really talked about it a lot and came up with, all of our adult programs will be called weekends, because that's really what they are. All the adult programs fall on weekends, and it's more of a gathering. It might seem less scary for people, first timers, to go to, since it's not hands-on or retreat. So that's a simple change that we're going to make. So the brochures have already been printed as retreats, and we're not going to reprint those. But the things that you'll see at the retreats, you'll see the wording weekends being used. And what is not changing is the structure. There's still going to be that same familiar, what you were used to as a retreat is just going to be called a weekend. So there'll be a whole more detailed explanation coming out in the Hope magazine on that. So this one we're really, really excited about. This is what was known as C.O.P.S Walk Harper's Ferry. So we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of C.O.P.S Walk Harper's Ferry. And each year we look at our C.O.P.S walks to determine, how many participants we have, and is it effective, and all of that. And we've really been taking a hard look at C.O.P.S Walk Harper's Ferry over the last few years. And we had our development committee take a look at it, and they came up with a brilliant idea of seeing if it was an opportunity to walk to the wall. So we were able to get permission to reroute this walk, and it is now going to not only rerouted to the wall, but it will be changed to C.O.P.S Walk to the Wall. And that's going to be October 10th through the 12th. So we're really excited about that. I think it will because we're ending the walk at the wall. It will be very impactful, and I think we all believe that we're going to see an increase in participation because of it. So if you're thinking about doing that, get online and make your reservation and registration for that. Surviving to Thriving. Registration, just found out this morning that it is open. Surviving to Thriving was very successful in its inaugural year, and we are able to bring it back this year in November 13th through the 16th. And it's for all survivors. It doesn't replace the Survivor Weekend. This is in addition to, and it's a chance for all survivors to come together. And we had heard for a long time that we needed something like this, and the first one was a huge success. So those who are invited to attend are surviving family members, surviving coworkers, and then special guests of the National Board. Let's see, some of the things that is new is that it's going to be held at the same time as the National Conference on Law Enforcement, Wellness, and Trauma, but we're going to have basically two different tracks. The meetings will be in different spaces, but it's all going to be at the same hotel in New Orleans. We're really excited about that. The things that you will see, the exhibitors will all be in the same place. The cop shop will all be in the same place, and registration, there'll be 1 point of registration. So we're really looking forward to that. And then I'm going to roll right into the National Conference on Law Enforcement, Wellness, and Trauma, which is also those same dates, you'll notice. And it is, both of those conferences will be held concurrently at the New Orleans Marriott on Canal Street. So, National Police Week. I'm sure you've been getting lots of information about from Lori and her team about National Police Week. Registration deadline is March 31st. Please remind your survivors to go on and register as early as possible. It really helps with hotels and planning purposes for our team. So again, that deadline is Monday, March 31st. Part of National Police Week is our Blue Honor Gala on May 14th. We're excited to offer that again. This year, the tickets are $150 per person or $1,400 for a table of 10. I get to share with you, it's been just announced that our musical guest is Dave Bray USA and his full band this year. So that will be the musical talent at the Blue Honor Gala, and we're pretty excited about that. We've kind of heard his set list that he's proposed, and it's very, I think you'll enjoy it. It's very patriotic and a good way to honor our heroes, using a lot of different venues, or not venues, but music genres. So it'll be really exciting. The traumas in law enforcement training, we have 8 remaining. All of them are open for registration with the exception of the most recent one coming up in Rogers, Bentonville, Arkansas. That registration is closed. I'd encourage you, if there's one in your area, I'd encourage you to attend. We rely on our chapters. When we host these TLEs in a chapter area, we let the chapter, or we ask them to participate and support it in volunteer capacity. And they are very, very helpful. Your chapters out there, you're tremendous in providing support for that. You're going to hear more about that from Lisa in a little bit. She'll give you a whole lot more detail than I can. And we have some new faces on staff. Clint Schaffnick is our multimedia specialist, and he joined us. He's working on, some of you may have already been contacted by him. He's taking over the chapter websites, and as well as doing a lot of work on the national website. So you may have already been contacted by Clint. He just hit the ground running, and he also does great work in videography and photography and all of that. So we're glad he's joined our team. And Tia Roberts is our new merchandise assistant, and she's busy receiving and organizing tons of merchandise for National Police Week right now. Lots of inventory coming in. So we're really glad to have both of them on staff. And we did have some staff members who have left the organization to pursue some of other opportunities. Kwabena Asante, our training director, he resigned to take another position, and Stephanie Anderson, she has resigned to pursue some other interests as well. And we will definitely miss both of them, and we wish them all the best in their endeavors. What I am happy to tell you is that we are in the final stages of hiring a new training director. So we're really excited about that. Just final stages, so I can't announce it yet, but I think he's going to be a great addition to the team. And anytime we have vacancies, such as the training director position or the NCL position, we take a good hard look at that and see, do we want to tweak that job description or those duties, responsibilities at all? So that's what we're in the stage of doing right now with the NCL. But in the meantime, you all have a tremendous amount of support with Lori Putnam and Nikki Sparrow in chapter support. So we'll look forward to making some announcements down the road on that. So the next few slides are not really new information, but reminders because of upcoming deadlines. The first one, you've been getting messages from me on a regular basis about the C.O.P.S National Board elections. And those elections are held in July, but a very important date is tomorrow. So applications are due tomorrow if you're interested in running for a trustee position or the national president. You can go to our website under the About Us and National Board, and you'll find all the relevant information, the SOPs that outline the whole process, and then the forms that you need to submit that application. So if you're out there and you've been thinking about doing it and you just have been procrastinating, you got about 26 hours to get your application in. So I encourage you to do that. Chapter merchandise. We have been able to provide chapters with customized chapter logoed merchandise, and a lot of chapters want to have these shirts before National Police Week. So if you're interested in that, that deadline is April 1st, and you can contact Nicole or go to the C.O.P.S shop and she can fill you in on all the details. But they're turning out really great. They look really good. We love the design. And then the other thing, this was hugely popular last year, was the memorial flags. They're still available. This is a brand new design. It's very different from last year's design. That deadline is also April 1st. The flag is $50 if you choose to have it shipped to you directly. What a lot of people have done, and it really turned out, it created a really special memorial at National Police Week, to purchase it for $100, and then we take it with us to National Police Week and we display it. And it becomes a really cool memorial for people to go and honor their heroes at that memorial flag display. So April 1 is that deadline. And that is all I have. I think Lori's going to plan on opening it up for Q&A, and you may have put some in the chat that I didn't see that we can talk about. But before I go, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you all. You all are the grassroots of our organization, and you provide the peer support to all of our survivors, both seasoned and brand new survivors. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for the work that you do, because we see the impact that you all have. So thank you.
Thanks, Barbie.
You are welcome. There was one question about the cost of the shirts, if anybody knows.
I do
Or
not know that, but I
Get in
can,
touch with Nicole, maybe.
yeah, or I can figure it out and shoot it to you before this session ends.
Great.
Thank-
Cindy, how many are in attendance? There's 33 in attendance today. And with that is some exciting news. I know we've been running the webinar format of board chapter training for the past couple of times. With our next training that we offer, we're going to try it out in a Zoom fashion. So we will be holding it to where everyone can see each other and interact during certain portions of the training to have some more interactive attendance. So great questions. Back to you, Alyssa.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbie, for all that awesome
You're welcome.
information. I am happy to now introduce Erin Barnett.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here. I have the pleasure of talking to you guys about the National Police Survivors Conference at National Police Week. So let me get my presentation up here. Can you guys see that okay? Okay, so the topic I'm going to talk about is the National Police Survivors Conference at National Police Week. And this was something that some chapters had said that they would like a little bit more information on to better understand a little bit more about the purpose of the conference and why it's really important to make sure that our survivors are going to this. So this is really the first introduction that a lot of survivors are getting to C.O.P.S. It's the first impression that they're getting of C.O.P.S. It's the first time for them to learn about the programs or survivor weekends that we plan for them. It's the first chance for a lot of them to meet many of you guys and start forming their relationships with the chapters and also learning more about what the chapters are and why they should get involved. It's their first opportunity to learn about the benefits that are available to them, whether it be through PSOB or scholarships that Alyssa is going to talk about later. And it's also that first opportunity for them to gain that peer support, that foundation, and that thing that we all love about C.O.P.S, which is the peer support aspect of meeting other survivors. So with the conference, the first day that C.O.P.S hosts is the May 14th support sessions. If you follow the foundation of what we do, at the very beginning, we have an opening session, but in the afternoon, we have the support sessions or debriefing. These debriefings are really important, and I know a lot of people kind of have a negative connotation with the word debriefing, so we did title that support sessions because really that's what survivors are going there, is to get support from other survivors. It really gives them the ability to talk about the death of their officer with others. We find that a lot of survivors tell us that it's their first opportunity for them to talk about the death of their officer outside of their family members. It gives them a place to listen to other survivors and help normalize their grief. We find that a lot of survivors tell us that when they go to these support sessions, that they hear something from another survivor and they say, I am experiencing that exact same thing, and it really helped me to know that I'm not crazy because I feel that way. It gives them a safe space for them to meet other survivors in a much smaller setting. We all know that Police Week can be really overwhelming with the amount of people that are there. And these support sessions gives them a chance to break down into smaller groups. So we're putting mothers with mothers, siblings with siblings, spouses with spouses. It also gives us a chance to break them down into groups with the same death circumstances. And you may wonder why we do that, but it really helps people that have felonious loss to understand from other people who have felonious loss. They may be going through a trial, there may have been a lot of media coverage, and it gives them the chance to be able to talk about that with others who are experiencing the same thing. This is also planned the day after the candlelight vigil, so it also gives them the ability to process those emotions that they're experiencing after the candlelight vigil. On May 16th, which is the second day of our sessions, in the morning we have breakout sessions, and these are really designed based on evaluations from previous year survivors on what they would like to see. And then it's also designed on what our counseling staff feels is a really good tools for the survivors to learn from. You're going to see things like family dynamics. I think all of us know that it's something that comes up a lot with survivors, that difficult family dynamics are really hard, and it gives them the opportunity to learn about how to navigate through those things. It'll give you a chance to talk about working through your anger, anxiety, sleep issues. We have sessions that are going to explain how to help children and teens, and this is going to explain how to help children in adolescent years all the way up to teenage years, and how those grief experiences are going to change as they get older. We also have sessions that are going to talk about preparing for trial. And this is a really great session for chapter members to attend to, because I know that a lot of you end up going to trials with the survivors, and it's going to help you learn more about what you can experience at that, and then the things that you can do to help those survivors. And then we also have sessions on overcoming survivor guilt. And this is really important for our coworker survivors, because many of them have a lot of survivor guilt after the death of their officer. Not only during the breakout sessions are they going to get those kind of tools, but they're also going to learn about the benefits that are available to survivors. And they're also going to have additional therapy options. Many of our counselors there are EMDR trained. They will talk to you about mindfulness and techniques that you can use to center yourself. Again, that peer support aspect is the foundation of C.O.P.S and one of the most important things that we are built on. And then we have a full team of support services that are made up of individuals from across the country that are mental health professionals, they're peer support, they're critical incident stress management trained, and they can provide one-on-one counseling, couples counseling, family counseling. They'll even go as far as doing group counseling for coworkers that may have not had the chance to do a debrief after the loss of their officer. Also with the National Police Survivors Conference is the Kids Teens program. So this is held on May 14th and 16th. It's planned for surviving children and siblings ages kindergarten through 12th grade. And we plan this on the 14th and 16th, an all-day program, so that the adults can go to the Survivors Conference and the kids can go to the Kids Teens program. Many people ask us why kindergarten. The day is a full day, so we want to make sure that when these kids come, they're in kindergarten so that they don't need to take a nap. So it starts at kindergarten, goes all the way through 12th grade. We do realize that some kids are probably graduating, so if they have just graduated or they're going to graduate, we will still take them into the program. And then if there's any special circumstances, please just contact me or the rest of the services team and we can work through that. These programs for kids, teens are really going to give the kids the ability to connect with other kids their age that are experiencing the death of a parent or a sibling. We have found that a lot of times kids will say, I have no one to talk to about the death of my parent or my sibling because everyone else in school hasn't had that experience. When we bring these kids together, we're providing them age-appropriate counseling, and it gives them the ability to talk with other kids about their loss. We're giving them a safe space for them to process their emotions after the candlelight vigil and then again after the memorial service, because we all know that those services and events can be very emotional, especially for children. They're held at local law enforcement academies with law enforcement support. So typically we go to the FBI Academy, and we also go to the Fairfax County Criminal Justice Academy. And this is a really great way for kids to stay connected with the law enforcement culture, to feel like they're still a part of that. And it's a great way for law enforcement to help volunteer. And even just the other day, Diane was talking about how when she goes to a lot of the conferences, she meets people that were at the FBI Academy when the Kids Teens program was there, and they said it was the best day that they ever had at the Academy. So we also plan fun and engaging activities for these kids to do. So depending on your age range, they've even let the older kids get to do the EVOC track. They get to drive on the EVOC track. They get to go and see these academies, which is something that not a lot of people get to do and don't have the clearance to do. And it just gives them a chance to do the counseling sessions in the morning, but then do something really fun in the afternoon, because Police Week can be a lot for these kids. So it gives them a chance to do something fun. The big thing that we're needing from the chapters on this is we are finding that over the years, we have seen a lot of kids come to day one on May 14th and not return on day two for May 16th. Not because they didn't enjoy the program, but because survivors are leaving early and not staying through the 16th, or they're going sightseeing instead of taking their kids on the 16th. And we really just want to make sure that as chapters, when you're helping these survivors register for the events of Police Week, that you're stressing to them that it is a full 2-day program. A lot of kids won't get the closure that they need from the program if they're not going to day two, because they'll start talking about something on the first day of counseling, and then they're going to follow up on the second day of counseling, but those kids don't return, so they're not getting that follow-up and that closure of day two. So if you guys need any help with talking to any survivors about the importance of that, we can definitely put them in touch with our lead counselor for the Kids Teens program. Anybody have any questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. Hi, Kim. I just saw your message.
I was gonna say
Thank
you got
you,
some
Erin.
highs, but thanks.
Okay, question. It is my understanding that this is for officers' children, not nieces and nephews.
Correct. The Kids Teens program is just for children, stepchildren, and siblings of the officer. The reason why we do that is not because we want anybody to feel left out, but because of the fact that they are doing counseling sessions, we can find that sometimes it's more detrimental for nieces, nephews, grandchildren to attend some of those counseling sessions because of what they're talking about than it is beneficial for them. However, we did make the decision this year to open up the daycare program. So that's infant to 6 years old to nieces and nephews, so that they also have the ability for somewhere to go for the younger kiddos.
Another question. Do you recommend not to attend day one of kids programs if the parents know they will not be at National Police Week on May 16th?
That's a great question. So we will not turn anybody away if they can only attend for one day. I don't want to say that it's not a good idea for them to attend at all. I think it still gives them that opportunity to be able to talk, but it might be something that if they know going into it that they're only going to be there for one day because they need to leave, that maybe that parent follows up with that child's counselor at the end of the day just to see if there's anything else that they could do to help their kiddo, knowing that they're not going to be there for day two. Grandkids coming to the, are you talking about daycare, Sue? Right now it's only open to nieces and nephews is the addition on that. We haven't added grandchildren to that yet. It's mostly just because of space. We hold it at the Washington Hilton in one of the meeting spaces, and the capacity that we can do is about 25 to 30 kids. And right now we're about 20. If for some reason we do open that up, we would definitely let the chapters know that we had additional space.
Awesome. Any other questions for Erin?
Well, you guys can reach out to me if you have anything or if you want to know any of the information on the sessions. We usually try to get the agenda book done by mid-March. So if there's any questions that you have about sessions that are going to be offered, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Erin. Okay, so to stay with National Police Week, I'm gonna do a little follow-up about a couple of items. So I'm gonna share my presentation here. Alyssa, am I good?
You're good.
Thank you. Okay, so the roll call of heroes. The NLEOMF is at a final honoree list of 346. Fallen officers will be engraved to the National Memorial Wall and read at the candlelight vigil on May 13th. That number and that list is considered final at 346. The FOP is currently honoring 231 officers at the May 15th memorial service. This number can increase over the month of February due to any fallen officers who have died by suicide and been awarded PSOB. So we're currently in the process of reaching out to about 25 additional families, asking them if they would like to be honored by the FOP in 2025, or if they want to defer until 2026 to wait for the process that the National Law Enforcement Memorial is working on. So that's an option out to those families. So that list is not considered final. We've given them the deadline of February 28th. And after that, I will be sending you all a final names list with correct spelling, end of watch, All of that information will be out at the beginning of March and also posted on the website. Survivors with additional needs. I wanted to come back and touch on this after our last training together. There's been some really great questions and really great information shared with National C.O.P.S. We work so closely with you all, as you know, for National Police Week and other events, and you guys knowing the families because you're there locally. And so if you have a family in your area that has any kind of family dynamics that you think we would want to be aware of, that we could talk to support services about, or let the FOP know that there's some family dynamics within certain groups, that would be helpful information. I've also spoken to a lot of you about ADA assistance and rooms. So currently at the Washington Hilton, I know that there's been an issue booking ADA rooms. I am on the situation. I do have a list of folks that have reached out to me. I am waiting on the Hilton to get back to me so we can take care of this. So if you have any of those survivors in your area, please just send myself, Alyssa, Perry, or Aaron Gisselbeck a note and just let us know so we can be watching this stuff for transportation and the different services. Registration. So registration fees, $150 for an adult, $50 for a child. That's for survivors returning to Police Week, so they've honored their officer in a previous year. That's if you attend breakfast, lunches, the Blue Family Barbecue, and transportation. The deadline for National Police Week registration is March 31st for a hotel accommodations. If you do not need hotel accommodations, we won't close the registration form. We might take it down for about 24 hours to kind of get caught up after the hotel deadline, but then we plan to put it back up as we did last year to allow folks to register, pre-register, and not have to do it on site. Check-in at the Hilton for your credentials will be May 11th from 2 to 7. That's a change from last year due to the space. May 12th from 9 to 6, May 13th from 8 to 3, and the 14th from 8 to noon. All attendees must be present at check-in to receive their required credentials and provide ID. That's something we started last year. This is due to security, making sure that we're credentialing folks to be in the different hotels on transportation. That, of course, isn't necessarily the case if you have little kiddos, as long as they're with a guardian. Any special exceptions to that? So if you have a survivor that's coming in late but wants to attend something first thing in the morning, you can make those arrangements at the on-site registration table where the C.O.P.S staff sits in that assistance area. You can make arrangements there, or the same staff, Alyssa, myself, Perry, or Aaron can help out with that. So we do understand that there's some things that will prevent people from coming during these hours, but we would like that to be a very limited number, so only using those in special circumstances. Chapter support rooms. A lot of you have been very busy booking rooms and securing them for National Police Week. If your chapter hasn't, just know that you have 2 rooms at the Hilton that are available to you. If you just fill out a form and then you get the booking link to be able to book those. I will send out that link again following chapter training today. Registration reports and the processing team, that's everybody's contact information over there. Registration reports have all been set up. As long as there is a registered attendee from your chapter area, those are automatically set to send every Friday. Really keep in mind that lists are not current. We have about 450 registrations in the queue to be processed. We've really taken an increase this week from Sunday to Monday. Big jumps there. So we process them daily, but at this point they're coming in faster than the team can get that number down. So Again, if you're seeing your report and you know that so-and-so registered, or you heard so-and-so registered, at that point, know that we have them in the queue, or you can contact us directly, send us an email to make sure we got their registration. That's great. Also, we're about hovering right at about 2,600 attendees. That is a total number. That could include a few cancellations that we've taken, some people, but we've received almost 3,000 registrations, some left uncompleted. So really ramping up, especially as we've turned the corner into February. And that's my National Police Week update. Are there any questions?
There are none in the chat, but I didn't know if anybody
Perfect.
had any before we moved on.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then I will just jump right in. I'm going to share my screen here. Lori, how are we looking?
You look great.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I am really excited to get to cover, we're getting ahead of ourselves, cover the programs we have here at in National. I also just want to start by kind of echoing what I'm sure everybody else has said and feels, but it's truly thank you to our chapters. I know, again, a lot of you probably hear from me, you know, getting family information or asking questions, things like that. And I can't reiterate enough how helpful everyone is, and we truly wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys. So thank you. These programs included in that, because sometimes the best way to get information out is word of mouth. You know your families that you're helping day in and day out. You know what their needs are. And so if you think somebody can benefit from these at the point they are in their life, or maybe in the next few years, or whenever the need arises, I'm really excited to get to share these with you guys. So our C.O.P.S kids counseling program and our scholarship program. So our scholarship program, like other C.O.P.S services, to be eligible for this, it is for surviving children and spouses of fallen law enforcement officers approved by one of the 4 pieces of C.O.P.S criteria: FBI, PSOB, FOP, or NLEOMF. We will not consider a scholarship application without an approval from one of those 4. So keep that in mind when talking to new survivors, seasoned survivors, things like that. There are 3 opportunities throughout the year to apply for our scholarship. In the spring, that deadline is going to be October 1st. And then the summer, which the deadline is April 1st, so that one's coming up quickly. And then our fall semester deadline is June 1st. And they have the chance to get up to $2,000 per semester for that. We only cover tuition and certain class fees. So books, room and board, things like that, we do not cover. We also, a student is not eligible if they're receiving a tuition-free education as a state death benefit. That is probably one of the biggest questions I know I receive on a daily basis, weekly basis. I'm sure Lori and Perry can attest to that too. The reason for that is oftentimes a tuition-free benefit through the state is more than what we can offer. So, for example, some states have a certain parameters that they set, or certain criteria that has to be met to be eligible for that. So say, you know, it's only up to a bachelor's degree that the state death benefit will cover. At that point, once you're no longer eligible, or whatever the circumstance may be, then you would be eligible for C.O.P.S scholarship, and that bank is still waiting there for you, because they do have a maximum of $16,000 in the lifetime of the scholarship. I also included a link there for our state death benefit packages that are available on our website that outlines the educational benefits as well. As of January 1st, 2025, those are all up to date. I know we've had some questions about that as well. So know that those are all up to date. Any new information that comes out in your state or anything you see that you're like, hey, I think this has changed, please let myself, Lori, or Perry Moody know, and we'd be happy to do some research and get that updated. And then applications are reviewed that are submitted to us. They're not reviewed by national staff. We actually have a C.O.P.S scholarship committee comprised of the outside community that they have knowledge or a career in law enforcement or in the education space. So they're awesome and they volunteer their time to serve on that committee. Something kind of new for our scholarship program that is exciting. We actually have a new application process. Our whole team has been working on that, and it's all online now. So you don't have to download a form, attach it, mail it, anything like that. We wanted to streamline that and make it completely online and easy for survivors that are filling that out. The requirements haven't changed, so the documentation, well, a little bit of the documentation, I guess, has changed, but the required documentation to be submitted with that is a recent transcript reflecting the most recent GPA, a letter of 150 words or less to our committee, and then a denial letter if eligible for state death benefits. So if there's a state death benefit that we think, hey, you might be eligible for this, a denial letter saying you've applied and you're denied for this reason, or something showing why you would not be eligible. I want to reiterate, like, the letter of 150 words or less, that is just kind of like a tidbit for you. That is probably the most feedback I get from our committee is that's their favorite thing to read. They feel like they are connecting with survivors, and especially, you know, survivors that have gotten it multiple times, kind of, oh, what are they up to, or what's new with them? And it's one of their most favorite parts. So I just wanted to throw that in there also. Again, we're just trying to make it that much easier for survivors to be able to apply for this and take advantage of this program. I think it's going to be awesome. I think people are going to love it. And I included a link for that as well in the bottom. And then moving on to our C.O.P.S Kids Counseling Program. Again, this is available for children of fallen law enforcement officers approved by one of the 4 pieces of C.O.P.S criteria. Again, we will not consider an application if one of those has not been approved for. This is up to a $6,000 lifetime amount, and it assists with out-of-pocket costs that are incurred with counseling. It is so expensive. Just looking at some of the invoices and bills and things, it is astronomical, and so it's an awesome thing that we have this available to be able to assist in that way for people who need that. There's also family counseling reimbursement available. We won't get too far into the weeds, but if it's in conjunction with the treatment of the child, there could be one-on-one parenting counseling, there could be family group sessions that we may have funds available for that. And again, I included the link below for that. And then a little bit about the process, just because sometimes the application is submitted and then people are like, okay, I submitted this, now what? So we receive that and we look over everything. We make sure that we have information on the counselor so we know who to reach out to. We make sure we have a birth certificate for the surviving child that is being seen. And then what will happen is we'll reach out to them and say, hey, we received this. And something I like to reiterate with this program is it's entirely confidential. So that is not something any of us take lightly. We know that the information provided to us is extremely serious, and it is a service you're getting with a medical professional. And so that is strictly confidential. Because we do ask for a copy of state license and certification of their degree, proof of malpractice insurance, and then a completed W-9. Those things have to be received before we're able to continue with an application. And then after that, we will ask for payment. Payment can be, can either be reimbursing the parent guardian after they've paid out of pocket, because some counselors require that up front. Or we can pay the counselor directly where they send us the bill directly. And then there's my information. If you have any questions about any of these programs, I'm always available. So now we will move to questions.
What is the age limit for kids counseling?
Oh, the age limit for on their 22nd birthday, it ceases. So they have until their 22nd birthday to be able to do that.
Thank you. That's the only question that I see in the chat.
Awesome.
Question, thank you. Is there any help for children over 22? That came in.
The specific program, but that is where we would recommend taking advantage of, our survivor weekends that we have, getting that peer support. There's also counseling available there, one-on-one sessions there. And we also have resources that we can provide on how to find a counselor in your area and what might be good for a better fit for you.
Excellent. Good. I will toss it back
Awesome.
to you to intro.
Awesome.
next
Now we
guest.
get to hear from Miss Lisa in our trainings department. She's our training manager. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Super excited. Let me share my screen with you. All right. So we're just going to be briefly touching on our traumas of law enforcement training, talk about the venue and hotel requirements and the chapter support overview. So what the chapter can do to help facilitate these. If you have not been to a traumas of law enforcement training, it is a 3-day training, 21 credit hours that we offer local law enforcement, really law enforcement all over the United States can come to any of the trainings that we have. We have about 9 each year. We try to have them all over the US, at least one in each of our regions. And we have had a great turnout so far this year. I know Barbie briefly touched on Arkansas being our first one this year, or our second one this year. It is completely booked. We cannot see any more attendees, so we're super excited about that. All right, we're going to jump right in. So traumas of law enforcement training, like I said, is a 3-day training. It covers stress and trauma, navigating line of duty death, and preventing officer suicide. Those are the 3 topics over the 3 days that we really touch and hone in on. Some of the things that we are looking for when it comes to finding a venue and looking at a state to see, or a chapter to see what they can help find us in terms of these venues. We're looking for a venue that is no more than 20 miles outside of an international airport. We do a lot of travel for presenters and for staff, and so we try to cut down on costs when it comes to having a venue or hotel that is a large distance away from an international airport. We want to make sure that we can seat approximately 200 attendees. We do have a little bit of wiggle room. We can do a little bit less, but we try to be able to accommodate at least 200 attendees. That just gives us the ability to have as many local and outside area law enforcement as possible. Should be offered at a discounted rate or at no charge. We want to make sure that we keep our funding in the hands of survivors as much as we possibly can. So we try to cut down on the overhead that we pay for these venues. Should be within driving or walking distance from local eateries. We allow our attendees to go on their own for lunch. We have some pretty intense topics that we cover. They get pretty heavy, so we want to make sure that our attendees can get outside of the building, decompress, have lunch, network with some of the local agencies, and just get out of there for a little bit. At the bottom, there is just a little disclaimer. This is not limited to hotels. I know immediate thoughts may go to a hotel. We are open to all kinds of different locations as long as they meet our parameters. So you can look into convention centers, churches, community centers, FOP halls, law enforcement agencies, really, just as long as they fit our parameters, we will not say no. Audio visual is another huge component of this training. We utilize PowerPoint presentations all 3 days. And so we want to make sure that we have at least one LCD projector and one screen available. Depending on the size of the room, we might say two, if it's an especially wide room, but we want at least one of these. 2 handheld microphones, 1 lapel microphone, input for laptop connection, and then sound capability. If the venue does not have the inside audiovisual components, we are not opposed to looking at outside audiovisual companies. Again, just as long as they are not a outwardly price, as long as they do not charge us an arm and a leg to do so. In terms of hotel, we do have some hotel requirements that are grant required. We operate under a grant provided by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice. And there are just a few things that we have to make sure we are hitting when it comes to utilizing a hotel for our traumas of law enforcement training. And that is for the hotel accommodations, not necessarily the venue aspect. So for hotel accommodations, they must be below or at the government per diem rate for the year that the training is held. Currently, we're looking at 2026 for traumas of law enforcement trainings. So that is the per diem rate that you would be looking at. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see that you can scan the QR code, and that is going to take you to the GSA website where you can look up your area's government per diem rate. Mind you, right now, it's only going to show the current year. So hold on to that QR code or that website and check back mid-year. They will release the 2026 per diem rates about that time. Secondary, if the hotel is separate from the training venue, the hotel must be within walking distance or within 5 miles of the training venue. Again, that cuts down on cost in terms of travel. Chapter support. You guys are a huge portion of what allows us to put on these traumas of law enforcement trainings. When we look to the chapter, you guys are the feet on the ground. You guys have your finger to the pulse of local law enforcement. And so we are really turning to you when it comes to some of these things on the page. We do have a welcome speaker that comes in on day 1. We are looking for local law enforcement leadership, no more than 2 speakers. When we talk about leadership, we're talking about a local chief or a local sheriff or their support administrative staff, someone that can come in and welcome attendees to the area. They will be speaking no longer than 5 minutes. If we have 2, we usually say about no longer than 2.5 minutes. So we divide that in between the 2 speakers. And then we want to focus on the importance of wellness training in law enforcement. So that would be what they would be touching on. In terms of the survivor panel, on day 2, when we talk about line of duty death, we bring in a survivor panel that's composed of 4 panelists, and they then talk about their survivor experience. So we look to you to help us with suggestions on who you believe may be a survivor that would want to speak on their survivor experience. We're looking for no more than 4 panelists, a variety of survivorships. So we want to have as many different survivor perspectives as possible. So maybe a coworker, a spouse, a adult child. We try to have 4 different survivorships. No more than 20 years out from end of watch, and no less than 20 years out from 2 years out from end of watch. We want to make sure that our survivors are in the right place in their healing journey to share. So we try to stick to these parameters to make sure that we are taking care of their mental health at the same time. We just want to make sure that they're in a good place to share. National must receive these suggestions no less than 6 weeks from the date of training. This gives us time to then reach out to your suggested panelists, where we can ask them, hey, are you available? Are you interested? And then give them further information in terms of what they will be talking about. We'll give them a breakdown. We have a whole spiel, so we are prepared. Volunteers. We have a couple of different places that chapter members can volunteer. Setup, which usually takes place on Sunday. So our training spans over a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We will come in on Sunday afternoon and usually set up between 5 and 7. Takes 1.5 to 2 hours to get that done. Registrations, that's going to be very heavy on day 1, where we will do registration. We have a registration desk open all day, all 3 days, but day 1 is definitely going to be the most hard hitting in terms of registrations. We have a super easy system that we teach to the chapter, and it works great. So super, super easy. C.O.P.S shop, that's going to be operating day 1, 2, and 3. It does close down at lunchtime on day 3. So not all 3 days, but just about. You would be helping with sales, helping utilize the point of sale system, which is just a really, again, easy handheld system. You've probably seen it at National Police Week or at any of the other Survivor weekends if you've been. And then tear down, of course, that's going to be on day 3. That is at 3:30 p.m. Again, surprisingly, tear down takes a lot less time than setup. Usually about an hour, goes super quick. And then we are out of there. Sponsorships. So sponsorships are not a must, but they are super, super helpful when it comes to covering a lot of the costs that we incur when facilitating these trainings. Sponsorship can cover costs such as venue, audio visual, snacks, and/or coffee. We definitely want to make sure that we keep our attendees fed and awake during the day. And boy, do law enforcement like their coffee. So we go through quite a bit of coffee. So sponsors are welcomed when it comes to covering these costs. For the sponsors, they do get perks. We make sure that their sponsor logo is placed on our thank you signage, which is then displayed in high traffic areas throughout the training venue, and then also in our PowerPoint, which everybody lays eyes upon on day 3, our thank you signage on the PowerPoint as well. Transportation is also something that we may ask for help with. If the hotel does not have transportation, we may request assistance transporting staff and presenters to and from the airport and training venue. That typically doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while, if we are a little further out than usual, we will ask for assistance. So those are the main things that we are looking for when it comes to facilitating a traumas of law enforcement training. Like I said, currently we are looking out to 2026. So I would love to hear from you guys if any of the chapters, if any of you are interested in helping to host a traumas of law enforcement training in 2026, reach out to me, look at these parameters, and let me know if you can think of anything that might fit within those parameters. My email is on the website, lisa_valverde@nationalcops.org. And of course, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me as well.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm putting your email in the chat.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Looks like somebody emailed you from Wisconsin about being interested. So that's great.
Oh, fantastic. I'll check that out as soon as I get done.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if there's no more questions for Lisa or comments, I'm going to move on to annual meeting and elections and the bylaw process before we finish up. Nikki is out of the office today, so I am taking over her presentation. So let me get going here. Okay, so annual meetings, elections, and bylaw updates. At this point, the bylaws process has begun. Each chapter has received a template. It's important to know that out of 54 chapters, each chapter is going to be in a different stage of doing bylaws. And once your chapter board, your membership have reviewed the template and made selections, that will be sent back to us at National C.O.P.S. They will get sent to either Nikki or myself to work on. And once we look at your draft, we will complete a clean copy for your approval. And the clean copy is we will be removing the text boxes that are in the template and just making it look clean and cohesive and put together. We will send you that copy for your board to again go back and look at and make sure that we captured everything from your template. And once you give us the go ahead, we will send it through DocuSign to Diane and for her review and signature. And then once Diane approves it and signs it, it will automatically send to your voting board members for signature of your bylaws. The great thing about DocuSign is once you complete the last signature, everyone on the signing sheet will receive a final signed copy. You will also receive one from National C.O.P.S. saying the process has been completed and here are your set of operating bylaws. So that's the process that's going on right now. We do have one chapter that is complete with about 17 chapters ready for the approved draft to be returned from us. So thank you for your patience with that. We're hoping to get to those still continuing this week and into next week to get that clean copy back to you to move forward in the process. So I really appreciate everybody just getting on this and being great like you guys always are at things. So I really, really appreciate that. Some important things to kind of keep in mind as you're going through it. Some topics have gotten brought up, some really great questions and comments. So any duties of officers that aren't in the bylaws will be considered an SOP. So you will generate an SOP for trustees or any position that's in the bylaws should do that. And then those duties that are listed in the bylaws cannot be changed or reassigned to other positions. The SOPs that you generate with duties just can't conflict with chapter bylaws, national bylaws, or SOPs. And then a copy of your chapter's SOPs, and I've been getting a lot of them this week, so great job on that, guys, is required to be sent to national for record keeping purposes. This also helps us tremendously when survivors call and ask about, does my chapter reimburse, or who do I contact, or what's the way of doing things? This is really helpful for us to be able to look at your SOPs and say, this is their most recent SOP update, and here's who you contact. So be sure to send those along as well. Annual meeting and elections. If your chapter is hosting an election in 2025, remember your 30-day meeting notice by email and or mail. I know some chapters have moved to just doing email and maybe mailing those simple cards to folks that don't have an email address. One or the other or both will suffice. Once you have your election, you will receive the chapter roster. We're going to send it out to all the chapters at the beginning of March. We're just looking through it to see if there's anything that needs to be changed, updated, that we need to get with the bylaws committee on, and then we will send out the new chapter roster. And with technology, once we receive your completed roster, we will send out the confidentiality agreements and the financial ethics and accountability via DocuSign to your board. So chapter rosters should be turned into Nikki. She will process and then again send those agreements out via DocuSign. Super easy to be able to do it on your phone, on your computer, your laptop, iPad, very, very easy. I will say it got brought up yesterday that when you receive a document from us through DocuSign, before you can see the entire document, you will have to agree to the terms and conditions set forth by DocuSign. And then once you click OK, you can see the document in which you're going to sign. And then at the bottom of the form would be your signature. So you do have the ability, especially with bylaws, to look at the full document before you submit your signature on there. And that is my quick note about meetings, elections, bylaws. I'm sure I have some questions. I can see the chat numbers.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say I can read them to you, or
Yeah, go ahead.
Connie asks, will signatures be for voting members only, and can National provide a template for the SOPs?
Yes. So signatures will be for voting members only unless there is a preference to have non-voting. We did go back and forth with this with the very first chapter. And they opted to include just their voting members. That's probably something that Nikki will ask before it goes to signature. So signatures for voting members. And then in the next presentation, I am going to talk a little bit more about SOPs. And yes, we can provide a great template. I know that the database forms section kind of needs some updating when we replace the chapter roster. I'll add the template for SOPs and a template for the minutes. Yeah.
And then Cindy asked, so only chapter roster is to be compiled at the March meeting. The others will come from National later?
Yes, we kind of started doing this last year, and it just streamlined with boards meeting in a hybrid fashion where they're in person and some people are via Zoom, or maybe your meeting is held all via Zoom. This was easier than having to try to get people in person or mess with Adobe. I know we get a lot of feedback on Adobe signatures and it being kind of hard to figure out. So when a chapter roster is compiled and sent, that would be for elections or any time throughout the year that you have a change to your board. So if you have a resignation or you appoint someone or anything within that roster changes, you should submit that. And then that will trigger us to be able to send out the confidentiality agreement and the financial ethics and accountability. It really saves, it's a great time saver, really efficient, and then you don't have to deal with Adobe and then trying to get people in person or at your meeting and you're trying to sign all of these documents. If you prefer using Adobe or, signing them in person, you are more than welcome to do that. We'll provide the forms. We just want to be helpful and try to take some tasks off of you for that, because I know it can be a pain sometimes. Does that answer that question? Alyssa, you left me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Cindy, are you good?
She's good.
Okay, there's no other questions. Oh, wait,
Awesome.
one literally just came in as I said that. Does chapter roster include voting and non-voting? I think we maybe
Yes.
did that earlier.
On the roster, there is a spot to put whether they're a non-voting member or a voting member.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks for the good questions. Thanks for all the hard work. And now this is my regular scheduled presentation, but I've brought my special guest, Connie Moyer, National President, back. We did have been having talks about this, so I thought maybe she would want to join me in case she has anything to add on to this. So let me share back, and we're going to do best practices, recording minutes and expense approval for the last little part of our day. Minutes. The secretary should plan to attend every meeting, but in the event that life happens and your secretary is unable to attend, you always want to have a backup, somebody designated to take the minutes, to have the recording if necessary, to be taking track. That's very, very, very important to do. Just some tools is to record. Our phones have great features now where you can take voice audio if you feel like things are going too fast. Having a pre-template, which I'm going to get more into later on, having that out and ready, kind of doing some work beforehand can really help with your minutes. Be sure that you're recording emails. Email votes go out. Be sure that you're recording those in the minutes. And text voting. This has gotten brought up. We've been talking about this. I've had a lot of questions. This is not really a recommended way to do business. It is very hard to translate out into minutes when you have text messages coming from different people. Depending on your phone format and group text messages, you may not always be able to see who it's coming from. Where in email, it's very clear who's responding to what. So if your board is currently voting on anything via text, we highly recommend stopping that practice and moving to email and putting a date and time on that vote. So sending a vote out and saying, okay, like we need to spend $300 for our gala that's approaching in March for tablecloths, example. You want to provide votes will be due on Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then wait for all of the votes. Don't just take what's collected and then kind of move on if you've only gotten 2 votes back. So emails, not recommended to text. And fill in a template. So I was looking at the database about the template that was out there and decided to come up with a new template that would better help chapters record votes and expenditures. And that's where Connie and I got into the conversation yesterday about this template. I do have that template prepared that I will send out to everyone following chapter training. So date, time, location, very important. We have gotten minutes recently with no date, no time, no location. Don't know if it's in person, if it was held Zoom or hybrid. So that's really hard on our end to know. And also, we've been putting your meetings on our website underneath your chapter. So that would be good for people, for us to be able to match up to that. Always do roll call for your board. Who's there, who's not there. Doing a sign-in sheet for your guests to be able to record that and turn in with your minutes. You want to approve previous minutes from that period of time. And then go into your board reports, your president's report, your secretary's report, treasury report, if you have a vice president, other kinds of reports that you might need to report out on. How many times can I say report? Expenditures. This is no approval of expenditures, where we're seeing in the quarterly financials that disbursements have gone out. So we know money is going out, but there's no record of votes in the minutes. And we really think that this template can be helpful, and also just talking to you guys about the importance of approving every dollar. And I'm going to get more into the expenditure piece of it, but then going through old business, anything that's a carryover from a previous meeting or a previous email or anything unfinished. And then on to your new business, what's coming in the future? What do you have on the table? And then announcements. Does your chapter have events coming up? And then adjournment. And then again, that sign-in sheet is super important, so you know who's attending your meetings. For the expenditures, prior approval from debit, credit cards, checks, every single dollar must be voted on. Prior approval of the board. Whether it's an email vote or you're at a board meeting, every single dollar if you have a budget that you're operating on for a gala, or if you use it for your yearly expenses for something that's repetitive like Zoom, everyone's probably paying for a Zoom option. If you have a budget, you can put together that budget and then your board would vote on that budget. If you stay within that, it's not necessary for those items to vote for every single dollar. So make sure that all expenditures are recorded in your minutes, and receipts. I work with Amy Hadfield. She is our accounting manager, or director, and we have to be accountable to her with our receipts. So if you're at a gas pump, or if we're out somewhere and we're spending the money, we have prior approval to be spending it, and we're keeping a receipt. It is not good practice to say, oh, well, here's my reimbursement, without approval. So every dollar spent, keep receipts, take a picture of your receipt and make sure you're sending it into your treasurer, and those funds have been pre-approved. And then documenting that. We've seen a lot of minutes where there's maybe a motion and a second, but no vote. Like, did the motion carry? Yays and nays. So motion, second, vote, and document all of these expenditures. I'm pausing there to see if Connie has any feedback or if there's been any questions to this point in the chat before I move to SOPs.
I do have some feedback. On the recording, as far as the secretaries going, I wanted to point out that if you do the roll call and you have board members who are not there and you put not present, and they come in later on in the board meeting, you can go back up there and document that they arrived at a specific time. That way, you don't have to keep moving things around. And then as far as motions and approving of motions and roll call vote, you can ask for a roll call vote, anyone can ask for a roll call vote, but you can say that the motion carries. So-and-so made the motion, so-and-so seconded, motion carried. Only if everyone votes yes. If there's a discrepancy, then you must note 5 ayes and 3 nays. So again, if everyone votes yes, then you can just say motion carries. Unless there's a call, someone asking for a roll call vote.
Awesome. Thank you. Alyssa, or if there's no questions, I'll move on. If there's questions, we can take the questions or move on to SOPs.
I was gonna say there was one that came through from Kim that said, can you clarify who can vote for board elections and national elections? And that's come through a couple times now, so I just wanted to.
Yeah. So voting members for chapter elections. So we have a membership list that includes the surviving family members and all eligible survivors within your region or state that we can pull, so you guys can have that prior to any kind of election or any voting, and then your chapter membership will vote for your chapter board at elections. So I think we set those reports up to send probably next week, if that's the last week of February. So you guys have those updated for March. So you could print that or just have it pulled up on your computer to look and see if somebody's there and they're voting, that they are eligible to vote.
Lori, I have a question on that. Just recently, I was in the database and I found that someone was in the database but they were listed as a friend. So so you not only have to look, if you're going in that database, you have to pay attention in there, because friends are not surviving family members.
Correct.
And as Lori said, they have to be listed 30 days prior to the election. So you might get that list from national now for your March election, but you're going to have to get another list for the for the national election, which is usually in June. So just looking in that database, if they pop up, that does not mean that they're a member. You have to go further in looking in there to identify if they are a family member or a
I'm really
surviving
glad.
coworker.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because this is where I highly recommend using the Excel list that we email out, because the folks that we have in the database as friends, or there could be former spouses or coworkers, significant others, those are all filtered out of your voting reports. So using that report and having it accessible, you can put it into Google Sheets if you're a Gmail user, or like I said, print it out or have it on your computer and go by that list, rather than trying to navigate in the database looking to see who's a friend or if they're eligible to vote. Have they been on there for 30 days? Where that report is only going to pull people that have been on there 30 days or longer. And we are always happy to provide that report. I had a chapter reach out yesterday that said, our elections are this date. Can I get a report on this date? I said, great. I put a reminder on my calendar to be able to send that, because they wanted one right before their meeting. So please, please, please don't hesitate to ask Nikki to get a voting report so you know who's eligible.
We've had a couple other questions come through before we move on.
Sure.
Joanne asked, did you say coworkers are pulled out of the voting list? And then Bev also asked, did you just say significant others can't vote? So I thought those kind of went together.
Oh, perfect. No, coworkers are allowed to vote. I believe I said coworker significant other, and so that might cut off.
Yes.
All right, that is all for right now.
Perfect. Just to kind of capture back to standard operating procedures.
Here's something important, Alyssa, because I can address this if you can't, Lori. Go ahead.
Oh, it just came through. If your chapter exceeds the budgeted amount for a particular line item, but that is not known until after the fact, do you address that fact during a follow-up meeting of the board, etc., or let it slide until next budget meeting?
Immediately. As the treasurer must keep track of all the expenditures that are expended for that budget. And is all you have to do is keep a line item going. And the minute you see you quickly approaching that, and I would say, depending upon the budget set, like if you have a $15,000 budget and you're $1,000 in the left in that budget, then you need to immediately go to your board and do an email vote saying, hey, either stop the spending or we need to increase that budget from 15 to 17. Always budget above your expected expenditures so you don't have to keep going back to your board. However, you must do that within reason, because remember, we are spending donors' money and we must be accountable to our donors for that expenditures.
Great, thank you. Something to help too with expenditures and with your membership and transparency are standard operating procedures. So if your board currently doesn't have SOPs in place for National Police Week, and this isn't just for the new survivors attending. This could be for survivors going back and addressing boards and how many people from your board will you guys send to Police Week. Weekend retreats. Are you accepting a form for reimbursement? What documentation needs to be provided? What is the operating procedure for the reimbursement amount? National Conference on Law Enforcement Wellness and Trauma. I know some chapters will help the attendees with that. So having these operating procedures set by your board and voted on and out there will help your membership, and it will also help you to get things going consistently. For local events, some of you, a lot of you have local events that are held every year. Something should happen. What is the operating procedure to host those events? You want to kind of always be thinking about SOPs. They change. Just because you set them doesn't mean that when things come up, you learn things. Just like I know we learn things at National C.O.P.S all the time about SOPs, and they change, and our committee addresses it, and then it goes to the board. So that's okay too. And then be sure that, especially as the new bylaws are rolling out, that if duties, so you want to make sure that you guys are creating SOPs for your bylaws. That's super important too.
I got to say that of all of our committees, the National Board's committees, I can tell you that the SOP bylaw is the busiest committee we have. And it's mainly because things are changing continually. And something happens that, oh my gosh, I thought we had that in there, just like when we went to the 2-year terms. Something came up that we missed entirely. So please know that your SOPs are almost like a revolving door.
Yes. And we're always here to assist you. Your region trustee, the C.O.P.S staff, we're working on getting updated training in 2025 to the website, and also expanding chapter training to hit role specific like we did today, with minutes and expenditures and kind of focusing in on SOPs. It helps your chapter if you provide clear documentation to your membership. That's so successful. So I hope this helped today. I hope this was some good information for you. And this is the end. So I'm going to stop sharing and then take questions. So I can't keep up with the chat. So if anything has come in since our last question.
I don't think so. Well, as I say that every time, one pops through. So, sorry. Cindy, who do you reach out to for help with SOPs?
Great. So that can be your region trustee. That can be the staff. I do have a template for minutes and SOPs that I will be sending out. Maybe not today because we're still remote, but sometime at this end of this week or beginning of next week, to get that out to everyone. Other chapters as well. I know that lean on each other. Call somebody in a fellow chapter and say, hey, what do you guys have in your SOPs? The power of discussion within chapters and outside of chapters with other ones is great. It's great knowledge to say like, hey, what are you guys doing? So lean into that.
And be mindful before you call them, go on their chapter website, because I have found that many of our chapters have them listed on the website because they're busy just like you. And if they got them on there, then you look at them. And then if you have questions, go ahead and give them a call, just to be mindful of everyone's time.
Excellent. All right.
All right. Any other questions? Looks like,
thank you, Marima.
Yeah, Lisa shared all the information she shared in there. Thank you, Marima. All right. One last tidbit before we go. Oh my gosh, Cindy, you're reading my mind. Giveaways.
You guys are the same for today.
Oh my
You guys are-
gosh.
Every time. We are going to be having giveaways. We have a challenge coin that we're going to be sending out to I think 3 lucky winners. And we will get in touch with you, everybody who has won one of those
Awesome.
after the fact. Good catch, Cindy. Keep on us about those giveaways.
Thanks, Kim.